And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. It's me, Jake Baldino, today, and we're talking about Romeo is a Dead Man. This is a bizarre new third-person action-adventure game from Suda51, the creative writer-director known for involvement in things like Killer 7, No More Heroes, Shadows of the Damned, Lollipop Chainsaw, so that right there should tell you what you need to know. Look, if you're familiar with any of those games, you get it. Romeo is a Dead Man is a new one. It's a big deal. It's their first new thing in a minute, right? It's not a new No More Heroes or anything like that. This is just a new and true Suda51 game with incredibly zany elements, some memorable characters, creative use of art, music, sound, color, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and some fun, if sometimes uneven and tedious gameplay. Now, if you're a fan of Suda and Grasshopper, I think you'll enjoy this one if you can put up with some gameplay repetition here and there. This is a unique game. There's a lot of weird, cool stuff worth seeing, and I was thoroughly entertained for the most part. If you're new, you might be a little more confused or even turned off, but that's how these games go. So it kicks off kind of thrusting you right into the game after some insanely dazzling visuals, like kind of mixing art styles and stuff. Like you get a grip on the fact that you are this guy, Romeo Stargazer, aka Dead Man, someone who was like a former small town cop who had his face destroyed by a monster, and now he wears a cool robotic helmet to keep him alive. And he's a member of a kind of intergalactic space-time FBI who fly around in a big spaceship. And it turns out his girlfriend Juliet is actually some sort of interdimensional threat messing with the space-time continuum or something. Also, like the equivalent of Doc Brown is in the game, and it's your grandpa, but he's dead or something, or he's a digital construct and now he exists in your back. He's a patch on your jacket that can kind of talk like an animated cartoon character. Look, the whole thing, I sound crazy. It is crazy, but it's part of the fun. It's part of the appeal here. Gameplay-wise, it's a primarily straightforward third-person hack-and-slash game with some linear, kind of bland levels, but it's all the other stuff it throws in for good measure that helps make it all feel fresh and keeps the pace up for the most part. A blend of some, 2D exploration here and there, a little bit of farming, just some random one-off moments, some retro-styled stuff, all help that pace. Combat primarily consists of light, heavy, and ultimate attacks. You can also pull out your ranged weapon at any point and shoot enemy weak points if you want, using like a kind of a pistol type gun, a machine gun, a bigger bazooka thing, or a pretty good shotgun. Now, the hacking and the slashing feels good with some cool animations, some combo timings, and a shit ton of particle effects and gore on screen at all times, almost to the point where sometimes you can't even see what you're trying to hit. And then melee weapons, which you have to unlock, consist of a heavy sword, a regular sword, some punchy gauntlets, and a staff that splits up for big combos. It all feels like a throwback, like a PS3 360 game, like nothing too complicated, just the right amount of button mashy. It is not insanely mechanically complex. It's not even the most cohesive or the tightest or the strongest, but it gets the job done. The combat feels workmanlike here. The camera is not great, and sometimes it'll get stuck, or the lock-on doesn't work very well, or you'll just kind of be punching a guy and get stuck in a corner. That is also kind of where the game feels old school, just a busted up camera. You're progressing through these pretty simple levels, like I said. There's not too much going on with them, but then at certain points, you can kind of jack into a subspace where it's more of like this weird, trippy digital world. And these areas feel really bland. They kind of result in you just kind of wandering around fake weird hallways that kind of trip in and out, and you get some collectibles and some items, but ultimately you're trying to find keys to unlock further parts of the main level, which you can then teleport back into. So you're kind of going back and forth between the main level and the subspace levels here and there. And while clever on paper, it does get old pretty quickly. Still, again, the game has little things here and there that just kind of help shake up this monotony. There's a kind of of survival horror, slower paced themed level. There's also like a dance nightclub part where like enemies just kind of are dancing and then you have to wait for them to attack you. So the game just consistently does all these little weird things that help shake up that repetition, because it is still my biggest sticking point with the game. There's also these random procedurally generated side dungeons that you can get into. These are also pretty bland, but you can get some cool unique items, and all the resources and stuff you collect you're gonna use back on your ship. The spaceship, called the Last Knight, is actually like 2D style. It almost kind of reminds me of like the Game Boy Color Metal Gear Solid game in terms of like art style and feel, but you're running around, you're getting mission briefings, you're meeting all these other characters that live on the ship, you know, you're visiting a vendor, buying more healing items and stuff like that, but you're also leveling up your character, and you're doing that with a bunch of creative little different mini games. A lot of them require the same resource, and some of it's a little confusing at first, but it's really fun how they have all these different unique retro styles to make leveling up your character. Spending points to, you know, make your weapons more stronger, or spending some resources to kind of cruise through a Pac-Man style area in an arcade game, and instead of chewing up fruit like you would in Pac-Man, you're chewing up health bonuses, bigger ammo capacity, more attack power, and stuff like that until your resource or currency runs out. So anytime you get more money, you're going to want to run back to this arcade machine and play a little bit more of this fake Pac-Man to get upgrades. I love that. That's a really cool, creative idea. As well as cultivating bastards. Bastards are kind of like these weird zombies that you grow. So on the ship, you can go into a little farm area, which you can upgrade, and you'll collect seeds throughout your adventure. You can then plant these seeds and then wait a while and come back later and let them grow, or spend resources to make them grow faster, and out pops out a little zombie that you can summon mid-battle during combat that do a variety of things. Some can turn into turrets, some will create a healing bubble, some will draw aggro. And there's actually this whole little subsystem of cultivating these zombies and then mashing them up together. Almost kind of like a breeding thing, combining their attributes and leveling up one of them while sacrificing the other. It sounds weird, and it is. Like, they throw a lot of gameplay elements at you, and they all always have their unique, weird, distinct style to them. Like when you're cultivating these zombies, you then get to physically grab one by the hand and pull it out of the ground. So doing all this stuff at your ship, you know, making yourself more powerful, growing these zombies, talking to all the weird characters like a talking cat guy, a bootleg Nick Fury, and then, of course, the weird Doc Brown character. All that stuff is great, and jumping back into the main gameplay, you know, when you're more powerful, it's a lot more fun. I think the game really stumbles in the enemy variety department. There is variety, but a lot of them are just kind of things you can just mash up, like button mash and destroy to hell. Only a few really require you to change up your strategy, and I just wish there was a little more of that. But while the main enemies are a little flavorless, I think the bosses are pretty damn cool. From a boss battle mechanic standpoint, you know, some of them are a little more hit and miss, but the visual style of them are just absolutely awesome. And some of them I really liked fighting. And I think for all of its faults, because it's not too long, it is worth experiencing if you like these types of weird creative game experiences. If you have tolerance for some repetition, tolerance for some bullshit, there is still just so much creativity on display here. Like, at least for me personally, that even though I had my critical problems with it, my nitpicks, my issues, my annoyances and gripes, I still kept playing to see what would happen next. Not necessarily to see what happens in the story, because it is cool, but it is bafflingly told structurally sometimes. It's just really odd. But just seeing what the game would throw at me next, from a really cool needle drop with some really incredible music to just how the character dies. Like the "you died" screen is incredible. I've never seen anything like it in a game. This is the sauce we need. So as flawed as Romeo is a Dead Man is, and really how flawed a lot of Suda51 or Grasshopper manufactured games are, I think they always have redeeming elements, and they can definitely be enjoyed by people that just want to see some weird shit. Sometimes you're just getting talking sprites in a whole story sequence. Sometimes you're getting talking sprites from a different retro era. Sometimes you're getting full 3D rendered cutscenes. Sometimes you're getting hand-drawn, crazy animated stuff. You're also getting a lot of like motion comic book graphic novel style sections. And presentation-wise, what's great about it is that it doesn't feel like it's cutting corners or anything like that. It just feels like it's excited to try and show off all these different mediums. And as jacked up some of it might feel sometimes, like I gotta give them credit for that. It's like 10 hours-ish, but there's a lot of optional content, a lot of characters to talk to, a lot of those optional randomly generated dungeons. Oh, not to mention the fact that I forgot, you get to fly around in a spaceship as well. Kind of like the gummy ship from Kingdom Hearts, but you're kind of just flying on a linear path going to your next thing, and you can divert to these little side dungeons if you want, all the while collecting more resources in space, like floating space debris. See, I was just about to wrap up the video, and I just thought of another game. And then, oh yeah, and another one. There's also a cooking mini game where you're specifically cooking katsu curry, and it looks delicious. The art style is great. And yeah, like I said, Romeo is a Dead Man is a flawed creative thing that throws a lot of different gameplay elements at you, but also a lot of different art styles and just really creative, weird visuals and gameplay motifs. Issues aside, I still think it's worth experiencing for some of you at some point. Also, the story goes places. In the end, I don't really know what was going on there. But hey, this was a tricky one to talk about. Either way, this is a before you buy. You know how it goes by now. I give you pros, cons, and personal opinion. And now I want to hear yours down in the comments, specifically your experience with Suda games. Are you like me? Do you appreciate the creativity, overlook some of the flaws just because it's unlike any other game you've played? Let me know what you think about any of their previous games, whether it's Suda or Grasshopper, and let me know what you think about Romeo is a Dead Man. If you like this video and, maybe seeing some gameplay informed your purchase or anything like that, clicking the like button legit helps us. Thank you. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.